What's up, people? Welcome to my show where I bring in different people from different backgrounds to showcase their talents and specialties to the world. Today, it is my privilege to be here with Dave Dusty Stiles, the man before Mr. Romeo Carey.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Glad to be here.
Thank you, and thank you for agreeing to this.
Sure.
And the nickname Dusty, where did that come from?
When I went to college,
Mm-hmm.
it was. I was pretty homesick.
Oh.
Pretty homesick. I found it hard. I found myself in a place where I didn't know anybody,
Mm-hmm.
and was kind of looking for ways to integrate.
Mm-hmm.
So one day I pick up the Sunday paper, and there's a special with this girl and her dog
Yeah.
from Connecticut.
Oh.
So here I am out in Ohio at Kenyon College,
Mm-hmm.
and here's this girl in Connecticut. So I think, how am I gonna? If I write to her, everybody's gonna. I mean, lots of people will write to her because this was a cool story.
Yeah.
So I thought, how can I be fairly sure I get a response? So I wrote to her dog,
Mm-hmm.
from my dog,
Yeah.
and I got an answer. So Dusty sent a letter to King,
Yeah.
and King sent a response back, and I thought, that's cool. You know what? When you move away from home, when you live someplace, nobody knows who you are,
Yeah.
so you can call yourself whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, I guess I'll try that and see how it works.
Yeah.
So I stayed with Dusty, and after the first year or so, it became very comfortable.
Wow.
And that's just where that went. I wrote another letter back to King and never got an answer. So, and at the time, I sent the first letter email special delivery, so that she would make it a point to not toss it right away.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's where the nickname came from.
Very cool.
And as it turns out, I now use that most of the time, except for formal situations.
Yeah.
And it's like an alternate personality. You know, it's a personality that can stay loose and not be and kind of have things move smoothly.
Yeah.
And it makes it so that means when it's David, that's more formal, more required, more driver's license,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Very
So
cool.
that's where it is.
And from where the career that you established and then where you were at in college, let's go back to the very beginning. Where are you from, and what was your childhood like?
Old Mystic, Connecticut. Old Mystic is about 6 miles up the Mystic River from what is now Mystic.
Wow.
And Old Mystic used to be Mystic until the railroad put a railroad crossing across the river, and then Mystic moved down to where the railroad crossing was.
Oh, okay.
And Mystic became Old Mystic, and is now about 3,000 people. It was about 3,000 people at the time.
Mm-hmm.
The house we were living in was on a 40-acre woodlot.
Mm-hmm.
So we had lots of space to play. My brother and sister and I had lots of space to play. A lot of climbing trees, a lot of hunting around. It turns out that particular property was also the site of a famous pre-Revolution Indian battle with the British. And so my sister has found all kinds of artifacts, and the local Indian group there has come in and looked around and done surveys and studies and stuff. So that particular plot of ground has gotten a whole new sense of why it's there and why it's undeveloped.
Wow.
We've kept it undeveloped as just a woodlot. Won't be any building on it.
And how did it feel? How does it feel to know that you grew up in a place like that, where a historical event, a historical battle took place?
Well, it's kind of cool. I mean, it doesn't change what you do. It's just that you go up there, you go up into the woods and up on top of Porter's. It's called Porter's Rocks. And you climb up to the top of the rock, and it's about a 120-foot drop off the edge.
Yeah.
We of course climbed it up and down.
Yeah.
Had a good time doing it, and we could from the top of the rocks we could look southbound in the river, all the way down to Mystic, and it's kind of fun to know that there's some weight there, some historic weight, even though you're just running through the woods, kicking up the leaves.
Yeah.
And snooping around for animal droppings.
Yeah, and throughout your childhood, from that time up until your high school career, if I were to meet you in high school, what was your personality like?
Pretty quiet. I've as the years go by, well, let me put it another way. Since I lived in a small place, I was never involved in particularly large groups. I think my high school graduation wasn't more than 100.
Oh.
I mean, this is tiny.
Yeah.
It's the high school was a bus ride 6 miles away.
Wow.
And there was none of what I had. I think one close friend who lived within a mile. But the rest of it was either, and I couldn't stay after school because both my parents worked.
Yeah.
So I didn't do any outside sports or anything. I did the band. I played baritone horn for all 4 years. That was, and the cool thing about that is since I had a certain amount of music education, editing helps a lot. Following the music and making edits according to how the music is flowing.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a conversation piece where you want to put a piece of music underneath.
Yeah.
The editing makes a difference. So back those days, I remember the white shoes we had to buy for marching band.
Wow.
I remember the baritone horn. I had to lug on the bus back and forth all the time. What else? Chemistry class. I remember I had a good time in chemistry class because I got to play around with chemicals and see if things worked. See if I could actually make sulfuric acid out of components. Built a model of an atomic powered racing car.
Very cool.
That was fun, and drew up the plans, drew up the designs for how it might work. That was interesting, but not outgoing, not particularly outgoing. Just kind of float along.
And at the time, did you understand why you were quiet? Did you understand why you were quiet and why you just?
I don't think I ever thought about it. Life was getting stuff done.
Oh.
Pretty much getting stuff done. I remember playing around in the basement. We changed the basement into the bedrooms for my brother and me.
Yeah.
And Dad built a car park. We sectioned off a piece of it so he could drive the car in. But the rest of it was just a bare basement. We built it up to make it work. So quiet. Yeah, I remember taking a radio apart and getting myself shocked because I touched the wrong thing. That is but I remember I had a workbench with hand tools, and I was always busy building something.
Wow. So, I mean, you sounds like you definitely developed something at that age that it can take kids. It can take them a while to develop sometimes. Like once they get out of high school and when they're in college, you had a hard work ethic.
I think so. Yeah. My dad never seemed to hold a job for more than a couple of years. He was always moving from one thing to another. But he really loved sailing. So, and we couldn't afford to buy a sailboat, so he would look around for wrecks, sailboat wrecks, and he would bring them back into the yard. We had a couple of acres of yard. He would bring them into the yard, and then he would rebuild them. And he would have us, my brother and me mainly, go to work on them and put in new flooring and new decking and all kinds of stuff. So we had to build all of that, and then of course we went down to the Mystic River and sailed around.
Wow.
And had a good time.
And with the hard work that you developed at that age and upon graduation, what did you decide to do after high school and why? If you went to college, where did you go to college and what did you major in?
Went to college. I went to. I got admitted with scholarships to four universities. Ended up in, and those were the days when a scholarship was $500, and it was a significant amount of money. Very different from today.
Yeah.
Very different. So I went to Ohio, Kenyon College in Ohio, and that was to get out of the state and get away and find some new people, find a new place to be.
Yeah.
That worked out nicely. Kenyon is fairly isolated too. It's not in a city at all. It's in Gambier, Ohio, which can't be more than 10 or 12,000 people. Sorry, guys, I'm probably wrong, but I haven't thought about the actual town for a long time.
Yeah.
But that was fun. I worked in the scene shop.
Oh, okay.
In the building stage sets, doing lights. I can't remember doing much in the way of sound at the time. It was mainly it was mainly lights and sets.
Yeah.
But that ran 4 years. I remember I needed a new table, a light for my desk in my dorm room, so I built that.
Yeah.
And I remember having to build hooks and stuff for hanging clothes because there didn't seem to be enough of that, and I built all of that out of clothes hangers. And it was just a time when. And I still do the same thing. I need something. I look around the workshop. I look around the garage, and I see. Let me see. I got a piece of metal here. Can I cut that and shape it and make it? Yeah, sure. Why don't let's try that.
Yeah.
So that's where all that started, and I attribute that a lot to just not having a lot of company and wanting to do a thing. So you figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
And go for it.
Yeah.
No, anyway.
Yeah, that's yeah, within the resources that you were given, even if you didn't have a lot of people or you didn't have a lot of finances, I'd say it was easy to be resourceful, and that's one thing I've learned about people who don't come from a family of wealth. You have to learn how to be resourceful. So within the resources that you have, you use what you can, and then you can actually create something magnificent. It could even be better than something that was created out of wealth or out of more resources. So
well, yeah, very often I find when you go out to buy a thing, you look at it and you think, gee, that's cool. I don't like that part of it.
Yeah.
There's something, and so sometimes I'll buy a thing and I'll just immediately fix it. I'll tear it apart.
Yeah.
And put it back together the way it's going to work for me. I don't care if it looks a little funny.
Yeah.
It works the way I want it to work. And that, of course, helped here. Anyway, so we'll get to that.
Yeah.
We'll get to here.
Yeah, and then other than the stage stuff that you did in college, I understand you were an English major as well.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering what got you interested within that major, and then after. Oh yeah, we'll start with that.
Well, yeah. It's one of those things I never had. What's interesting was that when I was in high school, I thought, gee, I want to be an electrical engineer, but somehow that never. I had no models. I had no real idea what that was. So it was just casual thinking.
Yeah.
So when I got to college, I thought, geez, I don't know what else to do. I'll be an English major. As it turns out, in the years later, I found out lots of people who were English majors gravitate
Yeah.
into lots of other things. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to have started out as an English major because I knew that would go somewhere.
Yeah.
So I did teach English for 5 years at Abington High School in Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
And that's where I got heavy into audiovisual and that kind of thing, in slides and sound.
Yeah. And, you know, what sparked your, with the English job that you had, what sparked your interest in the audio and visual stuff?
Well,
And
this was the period of what they call modular scheduling. Now they sort of do that here, but my first job was at Abington High School in the 10th grade, and our modular classes were 17 minutes apiece. 17 minutes apiece. So once a week you had a 17-minute period, and then a couple of days a week you had a 2-mod 34-minute period, and then once a week you had what was called a large group, which was 3 mods, three modules together, and usually there was some kind of audiovisual presentation.
yeah.
In doing that, and I got to be the one to start copying slides, copying pictures, and making slides and doing slide programs as part of those large group sessions. And then we would add sound, we would add music, and so forth. And then somebody decided that they wanted to do some personal language training. So I got to be the one to make the cassettes, do the recording and make the cassettes. Either I did the announcing or I had somebody else do it.
Yeah.
And then somebody said, "Oh, gee, here's a darkroom. What do you think?" And so I started doing darkroom work. And then that school got a TV. Now this was a cabinet with a pop-up TV
Yeah.
and a deck inside, so you could roll it around. You could roll it around from class to class and do recordings.
Yeah.
And somebody said, "Gee, who's going to show people how to run it?" So I spent a weekend learning how to use it, and they sent me to Ampec's class in Chicago for a couple of days.
Oh, okay.
to get well instructed in how to run it.
Yeah.
And so that got me down to doing video, sound, and slides. And when I came out here, I brought with me a 3-screen slide presentation with video with a movie part of it.
Yeah.
As part of the presentations when I came out here to do a workshop.
And you know what led you to your path at Beverly? Because I know it still continues to this day. Beverly Hills has had a tradition of attracting teachers who represent the best for students. They represent the best for themselves. So, what was it like at that time?
Yeah, it's always seemed to me that I lucked out. I was here in the summer of '69. And we had a multimedia workshop.
Yeah.
It was a 3-week, 4-week, 5-week thing. So my wife and I came out here and we came out because she wanted to complete her dance degree at UCLA. So she's busy doing the dance every 5 days a week, and I'm in here in the workshops. And I brought my 4,000 slides with me and did multi-screen presentations of various kinds, and then went back to Pennsylvania. And then I got a call from the personnel office here, and they said one of our teachers is going on sabbatical, and they're looking for somebody to fill him in. Now, at the time, the high school had what was called a I'll think of it in a minute. It was a multimedia program. It was a government 3-year program to find out if it was worth a teacher's time to make their own video materials.
Oh, okay.
To make their own class, to do their own their lessons
Yeah.
on tape, so that somebody could watch the tape and learn what they were supposed to learn.
Mm-hmm.
That was a 3-year project, and at the time there was a graphic artist, full-time graphic artist, full-time audiovisual technician, full-time TV technician,
Mm-hmm.
and 2 teachers.
Oh, wow.
And one of the teachers was going on sabbatical, and they said, "Are you interested in being the other, filling in for this teacher?" And I thought, okay, why not? That gets me out here. That gets my wife able to work on her dance degree,
Yeah.
and that sounds like a cool idea. Okay. So we came out, and it turned out that was the end of the 3-year project.
Mm-hmm.
It turned out that it was decided that it was not worth a teacher's time. The teacher had to put too much time into creating a video that she was satisfied with to play back to kids.
Yeah.
So here I am with the Media Center, and they said, okay, here's the stuff, make some courses. We want to use this gear to make classes.
Yeah.
So that's where that came, and so I'm here, I'm working away, and the teacher never came back.
Mm-hmm.
So her sabbatical became my 35 years.
And then within that, wow.
Yeah, it's just really crazy.
Yeah. And, within that 35 years, did you teach anything else? And when working at Beverly, appreciate this note from.
You got it. You got a cue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
When working at Beverly, was your job ever on the line?
I remember, I gotta say, it was during a board meeting Tuesday night. I was in the Media Center doing some recordings, and I was lying on the floor, very upset, because I thought they were going to shut the entire Media Center down.
And what year was this?
I don't know. I don't remember. It
Oh.
would have been mid-70s, probably. Mid-70s.
Interesting.
But it turned out that they were going to continue the classes,
Mm-hmm.
and everything was good. So that was fine. I don't recall any other time when I felt that way. And at the same time, I thought, gee, maybe I should move on to someplace else. But at the time, where are you going to go to find another 3-camera studio?
Yeah.
And kids who are interested and excited,
Mm-hmm.
and a district that's going to support it. So I thought, you know what? I'll just stay here, and see how it goes.
Yeah.
And it worked out that way. And we got to a point where we finally had 3 cameras. We have been through, I'm trying to think how many versions of cameras. We had the original Vidicon cameras, which were about that big,
Mm-hmm.
and were black and white, terrible quality.
Yeah.
You needed twice as much light as we have here to be able to have them look good.
Mm-hmm.
And then in early 1980, I think the city came up with a grant. So we bought some JVC cameras, and we finally had 3.
Mm-hmm.
Finally had 3 to work with pedestals, and then we moved into Hitachi cameras 10 years later. And those were the last cameras I was here. And then Romeo's been through at least 2 or 3 more sets of cameras. So we have just built and built and built.
Yeah.
First 10 years here, we had no editing. There was no way to edit anything. So all the shows, if we wanted a 30-minute show, you had to shoot it live.
Mm-hmm.
You had to shoot it live to tape. You had to have an assistant director with a stopwatch
Yeah.
telling you how many minutes you had left in the show. If you wanted music at the end, you had to pre-roll the music so that it ended at the right time. So you started it early and just didn't bring the volume up
Yeah.
until you got down to your last 30 seconds, and then you would bring it up and do your closing. And it was spectacular training for the kids
Mm-hmm.
to be able to do that. So all that time, we were able to shoot 30-minute shows within 5 or 10 seconds of the right time,
Yeah.
all the time.
Wow.
And it was, and that made a crew pull together a crew because everybody had to work together. Everybody had to get it right. You didn't get a chance to fix it. You didn't get a chance to step back and do it over again.
Yeah.
It was what it was, and you got good at it. You got good at covering for the latest screw up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I understand that you were the highest paid teacher at Beverly, if I'm correct. Was that because of the multiple roles you worked?
Yeah, I have no idea if that's accurate. Okay, I know I had 3 assignments. One was regular class, one was ROP classes, and Romeo is still doing those, but they're not called ROP classes.
Yeah.
And then I was paid in addition for the after-hours stuff, like the board meetings.
Yeah.
Board meetings at the time were 7 o'clock at night, and they would run 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
So I had to have the kids here.
Yeah.
This was a thing that we did live, and they were recorded on VHS tape. Actually, they were recorded on three-quarter tape and then copied to VHS.
Yeah.
And they would last until 10, 11 at night.
Yeah.
So I got paid for those. There was for a while the board meeting started at 7:30. And when there was discussion, it would often last until midnight or 12:30 or 1 o'clock. And I remember one of the parents coming steaming mad while we were cleaning up, just grabbing her daughter and taking her home, saying, "This is too late. This is too late."
Oh.
And I agree, but there you go. The board meeting went on, and we would then close stuff up and put it away. Those were the days before the John Cherney Hall.
Yeah.
So everything was in the little theater. We had to take the entire studio apart, wheel it down to the theater,
Yeah.
set it up, and then break it all back down again, wheel it all back up so that we could do TV shows in the studio the next day.
Yeah.
So if I got paid a lot, then at the time it was just covering hours.
Okay. And did you work 5 weeks every month, like 5 weeks every month? Did you work?
Yeah, well, in effect, because you figure a school day is going to be 8 to 3 or something like that.
Yeah.
Mine were generally 8 to 8 or 8 to 9, and that was certainly 4 days a week.
Yeah.
Sometimes 5, but of the total number of hours, sure, it equated to about 5 weeks out of every month. My wife remembers all those hours when I wasn't there.
I'm sure she missed you.
Oh yeah, yeah. It made it a little hard. It made weekends especially important.
Yeah.
And it meant holidays especially important. I tried doing summer school just one summer, I think, but I needed those summers to be back home, to be back in normal normal life around the house.
Yeah. And then, my last question again, thanks to my friend who dropped us off. How do you grade Mr. Carey as mentioned him since day one? Wait, how do you? Sorry, audience. Just a sec.
Your question is what? Let me see. I have to shape it down. Tell me your first reading with Mr. Carey and why you hired him. Okay, so I can do that too.
Oh wait, how do you grade Mr. Carey as you mentored him since day one?
Okay, how do I grade him? What's cool is he kept. First, I encouraged the district hire him because he was the only. He was the candidate who had the most technical experience.
Yeah.
I was absolutely not interested in somebody who knew a lot about TV and knew a lot about production, but had never actually done any.
Yeah.
Because in my opinion, what was most important here was getting the hands on and having kids be able to take the gear and use it to build stuff, to build programs.
Yeah.
And he seemed very competent at doing that.
Yeah.
And as it turns out, that's true. he still has me here so that he doesn't necessarily have to do all the physical stuff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he carried it way, way beyond anything I would have done. He came in with more experience with different kinds of equipment.
Yeah.
He came in with a real documentary background, which I didn't have.
Yeah.
My experience mainly was here, figuring out what kinds of stuff we could shoot here. So we did tons of news, of course, live every week.
Yeah.
We did tons of interview shows. We did cooking shows. We did political shows. We had a show called Face to Face. That's why Ronald Reagan was here one night, getting grilled by the kids. We did all kinds of shows that could be done in this space. And it wasn't until, actually, when you get around to John Cherney, it wasn't until we get around to John Cherney that we started to look at shooting stuff outside the studio.
Yeah. And, about John Cherney, so I understand he went to Beverly as a student, and then after graduation, he went to a university, I think, in New York.
I think so, yep.
Yeah, and then he came back to Beverly, was a media teacher, and
he actually went to a talent agency and worked for five years, I think.
Oh.
As a talent agent.
Yeah.
And found that unsatisfying, and decided he would come back here because he had such a good time. I mean, that's the crazy thing. He came back to high school because he had such a good time.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the good time he had was with a structure like this that enabled him to continue to do the kinds of things that he loved doing.
Yeah.
Which was just really cool.
And so when he did come back to Beverly, I understand he was, a media teacher. He did all of this until the age of 28 before his passing. So just when your first encounter with him, whether he was a student up until his passing, what was that experience like with him?
He came in long after he died. I've been with the family ever since, looking at the old videos that he did at the time.
Yeah.
That's because we're doing the John Cherney Humanitarian Award, and so I've looked at all of that stuff. When he was still a kid in elementary school, he would be running around the house with a microphone, trying stuff out.
Yeah.
The family would do lip sync singing and record all of that. So he came into the media center already all fired up and ready to do audio and video and have a good time doing it.
Yeah.
And as it turned out, he came in as a freshman, jumped right into the media classes, and halfway through his freshman year, he had a show going.
Oh.
Sports profile. And in order to make sports profile work, he would have teachers and students in here talking about their sports, and he would go out with a field crew and shoot the sport so that they had film to comment to and explain how and all of that. And I actually credit, and at the time we were in the JVC cameras, which are fairly light, nice color cameras, and Sony Portapacks, which are over-the-shoulder, 30-pound, I think, 30-pound, recording boxes.
Yeah.
And so you had to walk around with that. It was very unlike shooting movies with an iPhone. Very unlike.
Yeah.
So you had to lug that thing around and shoot. And he did that. He went out to the sports things. He went. They got sponsors by shooting footage, and having the sponsors just be part of the show.
Yeah.
And that, of course, led into shooting football and bigger stuff. But he was very involved with the editing and the shooting of the field stuff.
Yeah. Which
got us out of the studio and made the studio and the outside almost equal.
Yeah.
Which was really, really nice at the time.
And with everything, with just who he was, what got the family interested in starting this humanitarian award of his?
You'd have to ask them specifically, but
Oh, okay.
but he had made such a major contribution to the media center, and his personality was such that he just kind of he was sort of like a magnet.
Yeah.
When John was around, you knew it. When John was around, things seemed better.
Yeah.
And he worked really hard for other people to measure up to themselves, measure up to what they could do. And the family felt really strongly they wanted to memorialize that. So they provided money for the Journey Hall.
Yeah.
And they provide every year money for the
Humanitarian
award.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, every year we're on 40 years of this now.
Yeah.
And every year we seem to find these absolutely spectacular people who resonate intelligence and a real humanitarian sense.
Yeah.
Of being really firm in their sense that other people are worth
being here. Yes.
We just keep so we'll see what we get this year. One of our very first winners is now part of the committee.
Wow. And it's thank you for all of that, and now I'll know what to ask the family and the committee when I interview with them, because I did apply for the award, and yesterday the college counselor, he called me and he said the next step is for the family and the committee to interview you.
Yep. And we do that on purpose. We want to see every candidate and get a sense. Very often the candidate doesn't necessarily. We don't see the whole candidate in the written part.
Yeah.
Or even the filmed part.
Yeah.
We've got to talk to them on purpose, in person.
Yeah. So, I look forward to it.
We'll see.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you again.
Okay.
And, within your time here at this school, what is the most, I'll start with this. So because I want to have a career as a talk show host, there's other stuff I want to do, but the main goal is to become a famous talk show host and to do better than people like Jimmy Kimmel, Johnny Carson. So what advice do you have for me along my path?
First, know that these people are really, really bright. They're very sharp. What you see of them is probably 10% of what they're capable of doing. That doesn't mean you don't have that.
Yeah.
You may well have that, but they come from backgrounds of great experience of all kinds.
Yeah.
So what you're doing now, for example, just the layout that you gave me ahead of time. Okay, this is what it's about.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, I spent a lot of time going through this, and I'm going to be using a lot of what I came up with, to kind of lay out some stuff for myself that I hadn't really thought about.
Yeah.
The other thing is, while you're here, try all kinds of ideas. This is the place to screw up. This is the place to try stuff that you discover doesn't work.
Yeah.
This is a place where it's relatively safe to to a thing that is so bad you can't believe you did that, but you tried it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Totally.
So that's a first thing to go. Second, if being a talk show host means you've got to have, I think, a kind of a sense of the world. You're sitting here, you're sitting in a studio. At the same time, you kind of know about Beverly Hills. Beverly Hills has its own influence. So you know to draw on that. You live in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
There's stuff to pull from there. You live in the U.S. and so on and so on and so on.
Yeah.
The more background you have in the more stuff, in my opinion, sorry guys, in my opinion, the more background you have in the more stuff, the better you're able to focus on whatever the moment is.
Yeah.
Whatever the moment is. So you need to be, if you're going to be a successful talk show host, you need to come from a place where people really want to know what you have to say.
Yeah.
Really want to know, or discover that you can ask questions that they hadn't thought of, that they really wanted to know, but they didn't know.
Yeah.
That they wanted to know that. You come from a place where you're fairly comfortable with all kinds of people. That reminds me, when we did the I can't think of his name. Skippy Lowe. Skippy Lowe came in here, did a talk show.
Yeah.
Skippy Lowe brought in lots of different kinds of people. His very first show, he walked in, he said, "Okay, hi there. Here are my guests." He brought in 3 drag queens, 3 fully decked out drag queens. And I thought, holy cats. And then I thought, wait a minute, you know what? He's serious. They're serious. This is a discussion of a kind of life that I am totally unfamiliar with. Listen hard. And I found that a really useful experience to add to what I was doing anyplace else.
Yeah.
You add to what your background is. So I guess the bottom line is soak up as much as you can, about as much as you can, so that what you decide to focus on has a real depth of experience behind it.
Yeah, and this is for the audience. The audience will get an opinion from you about maybe the same ways they feel when they watch my shows, based on our conversations before this show, and then even today, right now, with the questions that I've asked you and your responses. What would you rate me on a scale of 1 to 10 as a talk show, as a talk show host, as of today, as of right now?
I thought, I think your presentation is really smooth. I think you listen, which a lot of people don't. They just go from question to question. I think you feel comfortable with the audience.
Yeah.
As well as with your guests, and that's important. You need to be able to look at the audience and say, you know what, I really enjoy being here, and I really enjoy that you're watching. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
No, oh, sorry again. Doggone it. So I would rate you. I don't know if I would rate you a 10 because I don't know how much better you could do. So I'm going to go with an 8.
Okay.
I'm going to go with an 8. And encourage you to take a look at this, and see where maybe the way you look. Now, one really good thing is you do stay focused. Yeah. You do stay focused on your guest, and you don't get intimidated or jostled, particularly. Though I haven't said anything that's very off.
Yeah.
Off the mark. But I would say you're doing really well. Now you need to I think you need to do some interviews with people who are more difficult.
Yeah.
Who you have to drag answers out of in such a way that they don't feel impinged on, and at the same time is interesting for the audience.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, there's, even for successful people, while you're here on this earth, I understand there's always ways to improve. There's always something that you can do better every time. And, mistakes and failures, while some people get anxious by it, they're like, oh no, I did such a bad job. It's the only way that you can learn and to become better. And I think it's key to the amazing things that we have in this life.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, without it, all the fun stuff that we experience would just be gone. It would just be, everything would just be so simple. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Good interview. Thank you very much. That was fun.
Yeah. And my last question that I have for you, this goes for me and again the audience. What is the number one important advice that you've learned, or the important wisdom that you've learned along the way that you can pass down to me and my generation?
I looked at that. I looked at that a lot, and I came up with several things. I'm not sure that. Anyway, one of them is the other guy also thinks he's right, and if you start with that, then interaction may be a lot easier.
Yeah.
Another one is, actually, I'm doing this right now. I really think when a group of people needs to do something, general cooperation is vital.
Yeah.
Everybody has to sort of agree at least what the main goal is.
Mm-hmm.
Whether there are variations in how to do it, it varies with discussion.
Yeah.
And I guess the one that I've been carrying around lately is I figure I'm probably one of 1 million people. Anything that I'm doing at any given moment, probably another 1 million people are doing.
Yeah.
So if it occurs to me to do something which is really cool and helpful, chances are I'm encouraging another 1 million to do that.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm looking of doing something that is less productive, then another 1 million people are likely to be doing that. So I prefer to stay on the positive side and try to live every day I can as positive and productive as possible. Doesn't matter what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, you couldn't have said it better. Me and you are on the same page because I'm all about positivity as well. So I think it's key to our life experiences. So I'm grateful again for you being on the show.
I'm glad to do it.
Yeah, I'm grateful for everything you said, and thank you, audience, for staying tuned in. Before we go, anything else you want to add on or remove?
No, I'm good. I've got to go back and continue keeping the media center functioning smoothly.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate for what you've done for this studio, what you continue to do, and I look forward to staying in touch with you.
Good. Thank you.
Of course. And that's it.